Maniac Mansion was originally created for the Commodore 64 in 1987, and it was later ported to the Amiga, the Atari ST, the Apple II, PC, and of course the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1990. The NES seems a strange format to have a point-and-click adventure on, don't you think? Well, I thought so too when I first played it as a child. Given some of the more mature content in the game, it's not surprising Nintendo saw fit for Jellicoe to change certain scenes and dialogue before it could be released on their console. Never one to rock the boat, eh, Nintendo? Maniac Mansion is a point-and-click adventure game, the first of which to use the LucasArts SCUM game engine, a system replacing which could be at times complex text commands with a simple list of words and an on-screen inventory. This made navigating the game and solving puzzles a little simpler, and in my opinion a little more intuitive, but by no means any less fun. It was such a successful and popular engine that it was upgraded and utilised in a string of Lucasfilm and LucasArts games, like Zack McCracken and the Alien Mindbenders, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and of course Monkey Island. As I said earlier though, this version has been cut down and censored in numerous places. It can be a little disappointing at times, but I don't think it takes away from the overall fun of the game. The game sees you take the role of a teenager called Dave, and two friends of your choice. The mission is save Dave's girlfriend Sandy from the Edison family mansion, where Dr. Fred has been taking hostages to suck out their brains. The characters you choose will alter how you play and advance through the game, and affect the game's final outcome, as they'll have their own sets of skills and abilities. This makes for a lot of replay value, as there's lots of ways to solve certain objectives, and there's also a variety of different endings. Having played numerous point-and-click adventures on the PC and Amiga before playing Maniac Mansion on the NES, playing one with a D-pad seemed very alien to me. I remember that the rigid and slow controls felt very cumbersome, but over time I adapted to them and haven't looked back.
Alright.
This port is actually the version I go back to time and time again, and hopefully with this small review I'll be able to show you why. Maniac Mansion is your typical point-and-click adventure game. In fact, it's point-and-click 101. You walk around places you shouldn't be allowed to venture, you steal everything in sight that isn't nailed down, and you try to combine numerous objects that have absolutely no use together. Why bother playing, right? Well, what I like about this game is the mild feeling of fear. Certain characters walk around the house from time to time, and it really keeps you on edge until you figure out when and where they go. The fact that you're trespassing in some eerie old mansion, which is a home to a crazy family of kidnappers and murderers, means you really don't want to get caught. This adds a form of tension that you rarely find in most adventure games. Given the clunky controls of the D-pad, this can actually add suspense, as your reactions won't be half as quick compared to using the mouse. The ability to switch between three characters is a really nice touch too. Anyone used to adventure games can attest to how irritating it is to walk for miles to pick up an item, or have to trek through numerous screens to pull switches that trigger events elsewhere, just to trek all the way back again. Well, in Maniac Mansion you can utilise the three characters and save yourself a lot of time, as long as you don't mind tediously swapping around inventory items. As mentioned earlier, there are some what could be described as real-time events going on, such as NPCs walking around the house, packages being delivered, and cutscenes from different areas of the house. This can mean you could be walking around stumped for ideas, waiting for something to be activated. It's not a major problem though, and I actually like how it works. There's not really much to be said about the graphics, to be honest. They ain't going to win any prizes, but they are functional, and they'll never leave you wondering, what the hell is that? Due to the change in resolution, you may notice that the character models and backgrounds look a little sharper compared to the Commodore 64 version. Definitely a lot brighter too. In fact, I think you'll find that sometimes the colours look downright sickening. I mean, who the hell mixes mustard yellow with pinks and purples? But all that said though, I actually prefer the way this version looks, and I think it adds a lot of character to the game. I'd much prefer this multicoloured sickening mess of colours next to any muddy browns and greens. Unfortunately there aren't any images of items in your inventory like in the Monkey Island games, but the text does the job well enough. I really appreciate the fact that when you hover your cursor over an item or area, the name of it will actually pop up on the screen. In few other titles you actually have to click on the items before you get any description. But with this highlighting mechanic, it makes finding light switches and lamps a hell of a lot easier to find in the dark. Though the Commodore 64 version was mostly silent, this version has music pretty much all the way through. This can be switched off at any point though by selecting the kid CD player in the inventory, which is a good thing too because some of the characters have the most irritating background music ever. In fact, I always use the same kid based on this reason alone because I believe Sid has some of the best music in the game. The music in the cutscenes is quite playful too. They harbour both comic styles as well as a feeling of drama or impending doom. The main problem I have is when a sound effect is triggered. This seems just to stop all the background music, play the sound effect, and then just pick up the music from where it was before. This may just be the limitations of the console, but I think they could have tried a little harder. Having my music interrupted for a horrible sounding crash, an item pickup or a doorbell ringing just doesn't really appeal to me. It's not all bad though. The sound effects can be a bit off at times and the music is a bit repetitive, but I enjoy the sound of the NES sound chip. I really think it helps carry you through the game rather than having to bumble about in the house in silence. Maniac Mansion is probably one of my favourite adventure games. I've always been a big fan of the LucasArts style and humour, and given how simple the game is, I find it has a lot going for it, even next to later titles such as Monkey Island and Full Throttle. It can be eerie at times, it's really funny, and it gives you a lot of freedom for the size of the actual game. So the graphics and sound don't do much to sell it, the variety of puzzles, the varying ways to solve them, and the numerous endings, and the many ways to die will have you picking it up again and again. It's a fairly common game and is real cheap to pick up, so you've got no reason not to. Thanks guys, until next time.